Hello folks, I'm Alex, this is Alex Unabridged, and this is the Cheesy Book Tag. So welcome back to the channel if that is the case. Yes, a little bonus video for you today. I know it's not Tag Tuesday, but the next couple of weeks my schedule is chock-a-block for videos, and I really wanted to do this one. So you've got a little bonus Saturday tag video instead. So yes, so this is the Cheesy Book Tag. All the prompts are based around different sorts of cheese. Cheese! I love cheese. So this is probably going to make me quite hungry by the end of it. Okay, so the original tag was created by Pick Your Pop Culture Poison, which is a channel that I've just come across thanks to this tag. So I'll be checking out more of their stuff. And I was tagged by Michael Romeo Talks Books. Thank you very much for that tag, Michael. So let's get straight into the prompts because there are quite a few, and I don't want to make this video too long. So the first prompt is extra sharp cheddar, or extra strong or extra mature cheddar as we call it in the UK. And that's an old standby, a book that's an old standby. And there is only one for me on this, and that is The Passage by Justin Cronin, which is my favourite book of all time so far. I have this in physical form and in audio form, so I can listen to it or read it whenever and wherever I want. I have read or listened to it pretty much once a year since it came out in 2010. I think 2023 is the first time I've actually missed a year this year because of BookTube and reading so much other new stuff. But it is definitely going to get read again early next year, I should think, because I can stick it. It's one that I know so well. I can just pop it on the audiobook and, you know, kind of crack on with it. As I say, I don't need to pay too much attention to it. So this is the first in a trilogy of kind of post-apocalyptic sort of vampire virusy adventure horror thriller stuff. And I like the whole trilogy, but the first one is just phenomenal to me. I love it, and I can read or re-listen to this time and time again, and it just gets better every time I listen to it. So that is the first one. Okay, the second one is Swiss cheese. So that's a book that's enjoyable but with loads of holes. I tried desperately to think of something that wasn't the Da Vinci Code, because I know the other couple I think that I've seen of this tag were the Da Vinci Code, but I think it's the one that's certainly the most enjoyable with the plot holes that it's got. Pretty much any of Dan Brown's. Angels and Demons wasn't bad, so that one I could deal with as well. I mean, most of his stuff I find just a little bit too holy. Like Digital Fortress and Inferno, I just, no, too egregious. But yeah, Angels and Demons or the Da Vinci Code, great romps of books, but yeah, full of holes. But they are what they are, and they're not. They are meant to be fun. They are meant to be rip-roaring, thrilling adventures. Sort of mysteries, and they're great at what they do. So I thoroughly enjoyed. Certainly the Da Vinci Code, and not quite such an extent Angels and Demons, but I did like it. Okay, 3, Roquefort, a book that everyone loves but not for you. I like Roquefort, or Roquefort, however you pronounce it, Roquefort. I like it. I like strong cheeses, blue cheeses. But the book that everyone seems to love, or a lot of people love, but is not for me, is this one. This is my wife's copy, not mine. The Great Gatsby by Scott Fitzgerald. I just don't get the appeal. I've tried it. It bored the pants off me. It's just so dull to me. I just, no, don't care at all. But I know loads of people love it. So it is just one that is for me, just not for me at all. Okay, prompt number 4 is Gouda. Underrated or underappreciated book. I have to say, when it comes to the Gouda cheese, I don't rate it. Sorry, boring. Much more of a Marsdam fan myself when it comes to Dutch cheeses. An underrated book, though, which I think is criminally underrated, or at least underappreciated, I don't see people talk about it, much at all, is this one, The Minotaur Takes a Cigarette Break by Stephen Sherrill. This is also on my top 10 books of all time so far list. And this follows the Minotaur, or M as he is now known, 5,000 years from the maze and Theseus, and he's working as a chef in a diner in the American Deep South. He's no longer the monster that he once was. Instead, he's now got very human needs, and he's quite a sad character. He yearns for a connection with others. It's quite a thought-provoking book, this one. It explores themes of prejudice, isolation, human connections, the need to fit in. It was really emotionally resonant for me, and it's written beautifully. The prose is quite poetic, which I guess you'd expect, because I'm pretty sure Cheryl is also a poet. And I just don't hear it talked about much at all, if ever, and I absolutely love it, and I think it deserves more attention. Okay, prompt number 5 then is Cotswold, a book you wish everyone knew about. Yeah, Cotswold cheese. You don't see it a huge amount even over here. It is, for anybody who's interested, a variation on Double Gloucester, and it has like I think chives and onion in it, and it's very yummy. Anyway, I told you I like cheese. This one, a book you wish everyone knew about, is this one, Ness, by Robert Macfarlane and Stanley Donwood. This is a tiny little book, and it's kind of part epic poem, part sort of mystery play, part folk tale. It's got these gorgeous scratchy illustrations in it, and it's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful story in terms of the way it's written. It can be quite dark. It's very evocative. It is mysterious. It's enigmatic in a lot of ways, but it really hit me. It's got quite a powerful punch to it, partly because of the language used, and partly because of the illustrations that go with it. And again, it's another one that I just don't see people chatting about, really. I love Robert Macfarlane and his nature writing, and this is him doing something quite different in terms of writing, and he does it just as well as his nature writing. So yeah, and Stanley Donwood's art is just gorgeous. So yeah, so another one that I just wish more people knew about and more people pick up. Okay, prompt number 6 is American cheese. Enjoyable but junk. So for junk, I'm going to substitute trash. But yes, and I think an appropriate one for this is The Meg by Steve Alton. This is utter ridiculous bonkers trash, but so enjoyable. I love that book just for how bonkers batshit it is. And so yeah, it's a perfect one to fit that. I'm currently just about to do my wrap up for the Cryptid Readathon, and I read The Lock by Steve Alton for that, and that is also bonkers ridiculousness. But we'll go with The Meg for now. Yep, if you haven't read it and you like an absolute, a really silly, sharky story, thrillery story, then yeah, The Meg is just it's a quick read, and it's got some awful character work in it, some awful approach to female characters, but it's hilarious and just, as I say, totally redonkulous in its plot. So yeah, so a real good one, that. Okay, prompt number 7 is Mozzarella. So that's something that's complex but holds together. And for this one, I've picked one that I haven't read in a long time, probably 15 years, something like that. But I remember being very complex but extremely rewarding. and that is The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. So this one is the story set partly in Moscow in the 1930s, and it's a satire really of Soviet society, bureaucracy, things like that. It's divided into two main kind of plots, and as it progresses, the two intertwine, revealing the connections, the interconnections between the characters and their fates. It blends lots of different elements together. So you've got sort of supernatural, sort of fantasy stuff, you've got magic realism, social commentary, you've got like a ton of symbolism in there. It's got quite an intricate narrative structure to it, from what I remember, and it's like the satire in it is really sharp as well, like ferociously sharp. It was a tough read for me, I'm not going to lie. It was a difficult read. It took me a long time to get through, but it was a very rewarding read, and I need to reread it, as I say, because it's been sort of 15 to 20 years since I read it, and it's one that I think I would get more out of on a reread, really. As I say, I remember it being quite complex, and it's one of those that I remember really liking, and I remember certain elements of it, but there's a lot that I've forgotten in that time. So I think, let's put that on a list for a reread as well. Okay, prompt number 8 is Parmesan, or Parmesan, as we call it here in my house. This is one that gets better with age, and so for that I have picked Orwell's 1984. I think this one, I've read it a few times over the years, and it always just seems so relevant. And I think as time goes on and you look back on it and when it was written, and I think it will still remain relevant. I think it's just one of those that it's a classic. It's an absolute classic that continues to make me think, continues to make me kind of more scared, I guess, of the world in some ways. I think this just will continue to age extremely well. Okay, prompt number 9 is Brie, a book set in France. I can only think of a couple that I've read. One is partly set in France, which is The Scarlet Pimpernel, which I read recently. But the one that is completely set in France, and by a French author, is Madame Bovary, by Gustave Flaubert. This is not a book I like. This is a book I had to read when I was a first year student, and it's one of those things where in the first year my course didn't provide enough sort of classes to make up the amount of kind of module points that you needed to complete a year. So you had to go off into different departments to make up that kind of point tally, if you like. And one of all the stuff that I had to pick from was not particularly great, but one of them was women in the 19th century European novel, and it was kind of the lesser of many evils in terms of I picked that course. The whole course was just, oh no, it was not for me at all. But that is one that I remember being particularly tiresome to get through. It's never, that sort of literature has never been my cup of tea, but when I was like 18, 19, it really wasn't. And so I remember snippets of it, but not a huge amount. But that's one of the two I think that I've read that I know is set in France. Okay. Prompt number 10 is Wenslydale.
Wenslydale.
So that's a British book or author that you like. And so I picked one because I could have picked loads from this, but I picked one I don't think I've talked about before on the channel, and it's Alan Bennett. I thought we'd stay, seeing as we're talking Wensleydale, we'd stay with a Yorkshire author as well. And Alan Bennett was born in Leeds, and And yeah, Alan Bennett's obviously writer of plays, film scripts, TV scripts, and you know, kind of non-fiction writing as well. And just, I love his humour and he's such a warm writer. The way he writes art is extremely warm. I think most people will probably know him from the History Boys. There's a play, but also there's a film of that, so quite a popular film. But there's loads of stuff that Alan Bennett has done, and it's all pretty much fantastic. But yeah, it's lovely stuff. It's great stuff, Alan Bennett stuff. I did quite a bit when I was at university, and I have very fond memories. Okay, prompt number 11 is Asagio. I assume that's how you pronounce this. This is a cheese I don't know. I'll have to seek it out to try it. And this is something set in Italy or a summer read. I will pick the set in Italy one. And I will go to The Merchant of Venice. So we'll go to a play, a Shakespeare play, of course. Merchant of Venice I first read when I was doing my GCSEs. So when I was about 14, 15, something like that. And I hated it. Everybody else got to do Macbeth in my year, and our class for some reason did The Merchant of Venice. And I resented that because I wanted to do Macbeth, which is one of my favourite Shakespeares nowadays. Whereas The Merchant of Venice, I couldn't relate to it. It was you know, something that you know, at 14, 15, it just didn't really kind of go in. I didn't want to kind of engage with it. After that, you know, since that at university and beyond, I've seen productions and films and things like that, and actually now I can really appreciate it, and I do actually really like it. So yeah, so time has been good to me with The Merchant of Venice. It's just taken me a little bit more kind of maturity to actually be able to appreciate that one, and it is an excellent play. Okay, prompt number 12, Halloumi. Small but packs a punch. A book that's small but packs a punch. I'm going to go for a short story on this one that I read in September, and that is I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream by Harlan Ellison. Wow, does this pack a punch. There's a lot in this, both in terms of sort of, you know, unpicking the writing style and how good that is, but just the themes, the content, the darkness, how much that small amount in terms of words and sort of, you know, page space that is taken up, how much it makes you think and question and think around, and kind of, it's, yeah, there's a hell of a lot in there, and I need to read it again because I still need to kind of keep processing it and unpacking it. That one will stay with me for a long time. Okay, prompt number 13, Colby. I don't know, Colby cheese, is that an American cheese, Colby? This is a book that everyone loves but you're indifferent to. So not one that I hate, but not one that I like. And that's The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. There were elements to that book that I really did like the opening part of it I thought was really good and really had me engaged. And then there was a huge section in the middle of it, probably half the book, I would say, where I just lost interest. It just went off on a complete tangent, different characters, all that kind of stuff. And then as it comes back towards the end, then it ramps up again. And yeah, I don't dislike it, as I say, I don't dislike it, actively hate it or anything like that. But I can't say that it's one that I would ever go back to and read again. It's one where I kind of go, yeah, I'm glad I've read it. I'm glad I've read it because I wanted to see its influence on, you know, the science fiction that's come after it, and I can acknowledge that it had a huge amount of influence. And there are, as I say, there are elements to it that I think are brilliant, but there's too much that I disliked about it to make it anything more than a meh on it. And yeah, unfortunately, H.G. Wells can be a little bit like that for me. So I'm going to be reading some more H.G. Wells next year, and hopefully I might find something that will, you know, bump him up in my estimation a bit. Okay, prompt number 14 is Pepper Jack. So this is a book with a spicy kick. A spicy kick as opposed to just a whole load of spice. I had to think for this, because most of the spicy stuff that I read is kind of, it's predominantly spice. You know, the sort of spicy romances that I've read for, say, like Garb August and things like that. They're more spice than anything else, I would say. That is their purpose. So for this one, I'll still go with a romance, but I'll go with something that was actually a bit spicier than I expected. And that is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, which is quite a sweet romance. It's also a bit of a sci-fi romance. It does involve some kind of timey-wimey stuff. Yeah, it's a queer romance as well. But yeah, the spicy stuff in it was a little spicier than I expected, based on kind of my I suppose my preconceptions going in. Do you know what I mean? I think I probably didn't go in. I didn't think I'd dislike it by any means going in, but I just didn't expect it to have the level of spice that it did have in it. It still wasn't super spicy, but it definitely has a spicy kick on it. So yeah, and quite an enjoyable, fun book actually. Okay, 15 is Vegan Cheese. A book you'd be better off without. I don't actually dislike some vegan cheese. It's getting better. But the book that I think I'd be better off without is The Cherry Orchard, or anything by Anton Chekhov. I'm going back to the plays here because I couldn't really think of a book that I'd be better off without. Apart from Dickens, but I've said Dickens, I've always said Dickens when it comes to stuff that I don't like, so we'll go for something else. So yeah, Chekhov, anything by Chekhov, but The Cherry Orchard is the one that I remember being the most dull. If I'm having trouble sleeping, I could watch some Chekhov. It's just soporific to me. I just don't get it. I don't get the appeal. I just don't get it. I can't stand it. Really, you know, I could have done without that through my drama degree. The fact I had to do Chekhov. Okay, 16 is Feta. So a salty character. There is only one that I could think of that would fit in with the salty character that pops into my head immediately, and that's Quint from Jaws. A salty sea dog, if ever there was one. I think probably my favourite character in Jaws. The book's okay. It was enjoyable enough despite its tangents and the lack of shark through quite a bit of it. But I had it on audiobook, and the narration of Quint in particular was hilarious, because the narrator kind of made him very kind of like salty sea dog / piratey. And it worked really well, and it was funny and engaging. And yeah, Quint from Jaws, a very salty character. Okay, 17 is Ricotta, a book that has something for everyone. This one took a bit of thinking of, because generally I read genre fiction, and I think the nature of that means that you're probably not going to find something within those that really is something for everyone. So I went back to my childhood, and immediately thought of the perfect one for this, I think, anyway. And that's The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. This is just full of whimsy, humour, charm, camaraderie, talking animals, anthropomorphised animals. Who doesn't like an anthropomorphised animal? Motor cars, messing about on the river in boats, and the beautiful English countryside. It's beautifully written. It can be enjoyed at any age. It's just lovely. I can't really think how anyone would not enjoy it. So there you go, Wind in the Willows. And 18, the final prompt is paneer. I love paneer. I'd put paneer in everything if I could. And this is a book with an uncommon setting. And for this one, I picked one that, again, I read in September. And this is a novella. And that's Walking to Aldebaran by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And this is set on a strange asteroid, huge asteroid, or in the tunnels of these strange subterranean spaces, tunnels and caverns within this weird asteroid that essentially acts as kind of a portal to different worlds. Now, if that's not an uncommon setting, I don't know what is. Really enjoyable story, actually. Very interesting setting, quite mysterious, and very funny as well. Very British in its humour. So there we go. Those are my answers to the cheesy book tag. It's quite a fun one, this. So the last thing left to do then is tag some folks. I hope you folks like cheese. So those people are MJ from Reading This Life, Roy Reads Anything, and Gareth over at Books, Songs and Other Magic. I would say get a glass of wine and some crackers out and have a go at this tag if you feel like it. So there we go, folks. That is it from me today. Thank you very much for watching. As always, do let me know your own responses to the prompts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider giving me a like and subscribing for more content coming very soon. But from me, for now, that's ta-ra.